The Arbites, I believe that's how it's pronounced. Yet another Imperial Guard team. Since the re-release of the Gellerpox and the Starstriders, Games Workshop has dropped an IG team every box. Starstriders, Breachers, Kasserkin, and now Exaction. I'm among the group that was hoping these boxes would maybe bring a little more representation from the Xenos, or possibly some more specific groups for Chaos or the more vanilla Space Marine forces. But it's fine, this is fine. At least the Arbites are bringing a bit more flair in some ways. Taking a look at the team, you'll have a total of 11 units, including a leader. Not many units have access to alternate loadouts, mostly just the leader and the gunner unit. Since you can take 2 gunners at most, you can have 3 adaptable units in your roster. The thing is, this doesn't mean they don't have an adaptable list. Outside the leader, you take 10 operatives, which means you can't even take one of every unique operative on the list, as there are 11 options. They are also very clear that both the gunners and the subductors have a maximum number beyond 1, and the Vigilant is the unit that can be used as much as you want. We'll look into what this means for the team building as we go through the operatives. Onto the Tac-Ops. All 3 of these actually feel alright. Tac-Op 1 requires it to be revealed in the first phase, so this could change your enemy's approach to the game. Its main benefit is that you get to choose the target. That doesn't always happen, so at the very least, if you know the faction you are fighting, you could force your opponent to not use an up-close fighter in an attempt to avoid giving you the points. Tac-Ops 2 plays a bit well alongside security. Depending on board deployment zones and setup, if you can control how far out your opponent pushes, and if your people are close to them, this will be easily achievable. Tac-Op 3 plays a bit more passive. The issue is that the units doing it can't fall during combat. This might be one of the worst to use of the 3. Your confidence in controlling the field has to be really high to snag this. Outside of the faction tax, the team represents both security and seek and destroy. Very straightforward archetypes that are considered very strong in most missions as of right now. The faction ability is what makes them a little more interesting than most of the other IG teams. Ruthless Efficiency allows your team to shoot at enemies in melee as long as you are within 6 inches of them. This is an enhanced version of the Blooded's tactical ploy. Rather than just being able to be used once per turn and possibly even killing your own unit with it, Ruthless Efficiency is constant and has no downside to your own units. Considering this team for the most part is built to play close range for maximum efficiency, this ability only serves to push the killing nature of the team to new heights based on the units you choose to take. And this mid to close range shooting efficiency is pushed further when you look at the ploys the RBDs have access to. From the strategic side, you can activate Guilt Reveals itself and Terminal Decree and gain a turn-wide free shooting reroll while being able to shoot at enemies concealed and in cover from 4 inches away. If you're holding down objective markers, Inviolate Jurisdiction gives you a turn-long defense dice reroll. Dispense Justice will be a bit harder to time depending on position, but based on distance traveled, you get a free attack reroll in melee. These free rerolls are very useful, since normally you would need to spend 1 command point per reroll you take during the round anyway. This just lets you gain the same benefit for a singular function for all units at the cost of 1 command point. And the Tac Ploys further reinforce the close range nature for melee as well. Exact Punishment and Brutal Backup both allow extra damage to be pushed in out of sequence ways. This can be very useful against more elite teams. Execution Order also pushes potential damage output greatly against a target that really needs to be killed. It just requires you to start with your Exactant early in the turn sequences. Long Arm of the Emperor's Law can also really help change the course of the game. There are a lot of early strategies that rely on units dashing or being able to change their order, shoot, then move out of sight. And with barricades being usable on vantage points, some teams can take advantage of normally punishing vantage points that just leave the unit in the open. So being able to shut all of these down for the cost of 1 command point can be very valuable for turn 1. But let's take a look at the team and see what units will be taking advantage of these abilities. The Proctor Exactant comes in 2 flavors, long range and close range. The thing is, most of its abilities really lend themselves to being close range. You'll most likely see this unit on the front line with a Maul and Shield, both of which provide great benefits in melee and decent benefits at range, upping its armor to 3+ and allowing it to always go first in melee and be able to parry 2 attacks for the price of 1. Outside of this, it can create a token that is capable of moving, which makes performing mission actions very difficult for opponents. The issue is, this unit only has 2 APL. Using this beacon will take 1, whether you want to place it or move it. At best, this will probably be used once in an early turn and then just left where it is placed. The shotgun variant isn't a bad option though. It would allow him to stay back, which could avoid opponents that take the Headhunter Tac-Op. Remember that Tac-Ops are selected after both players know what teams they are going up against, and seeing a shield and mace leader while going seek and destroy will signal that this unit can easily be snuffed out by turn 2. The 3+ save is great, the 8 wounds are not. The Arbites Castigator, a melee focused unit that has a very unique action for kill team, but before we talk about that, let's go over the other things. It has a modifier ignoring function. This can be a little weird. Remember that the Intercessor Methodical rule claims ballistic and weapon skill ignore modifiers as well, but in an FAQ it is stated that unignorable injury overrides this. So the Gellerpox aura or the cryptic ability that causes this kind of super injury would override this, but regularly this means this unit should be able to ignore the normal wounded state. It also has a 6-up feel no pain. Not the best, but always welcome since it is a full mitigation. Any wounds taken from any source can be rolled for by this. The unique action is where it is at, a new kind of perma-stun. This unit has to go through a full fight action to do it, and the opponent can't have more than a 10 base wound characteristic. Also, a Castigator can't arrest another unit that could arrest a unit as well. What's interesting is you have to leave an Exaction Squad unit in melee range to keep it arrested. You could have a Castigator go between a couple fights over the course of a game and arrest people to be kept by other units from the team. This doesn't seem amazing at first, but if you leave the right units behind to keep the enemy held, leaving a Leash Master on the target will allow that unit to utilize his dog while staying safe from enemy fire. Leaving it in the hands of a Revelatum would keep that unit safe while he is able to use his anti-conceal ability. The thing is, I would file this unit under situational, fighting Legionary or Phobos or Intercession or anything that could easily kill a 7 wound unit in melee. I'd probably just have this unit set for his shotgun and not so much for close range. Because the problem is that the 6-up feel no pain doesn't exactly breed confidence against enemies that can 2-shot this unit, who roll too many attacks for the stun to stop. The Chirurgant, the medic is for all intents and purposes a medic. He bears all the same hallmarks, the revive followed by a free dash and APL reduction, the 2d3 heal, even the medic keyword for all you Spec Ops players. The loadouts and stat lines are all basic for the team, no reason not to take this unit. The Arbites Gunner brings the weapon adaptability to the team. Interestingly, the grenade launcher doesn't have a blast profile, only AP1. The damage line though is better than its crack grenade counterpart. The lack of blast is a little disappointing, but understandable since the team's passive can't be used with blast weapons. The Ceaseless on the Heavy Stubber will help with the 4+ ballistic skill, and even though the Weber damage isn't great against low health enemies, its accuracy and attack count is better than you would think. Still a rare pick. You'll probably see a Heavy Stubber sitting back covering the team and a medium range grenade launcher causing problems in the average team builds. The Leash Master only really makes sense if you are also taking his dog. All of his functions are built around giving the Mastiff a buff and then being able to activate at the same time. The Mastiff can help when trying for your 3rd faction Tac-Op, and has the ability to damage people in melee range without getting attacked back. These two are an interesting combo of units, and also serve as the only dual activation on the team since all other units are GA1. This is very helpful against teams that have less than 11 units, and using these two will lower your overall activations, potentially limiting overwatches. The Malakator. This unit is very key to a well-built team. His ability to perform a mission action for free will help towards any overall mission that you need while being able to perform potential faction Tac-Ops as well. Its unique action will also shift combat outcomes greatly. Pick an enemy unit it can see, All allies can upgrade 1 hit to a crit in either shooting or melee against it. Super strong. Reminder, seeing a unit simply means that a line can be drawn from this unit's head to any part of the enemy's body. That's it. This unit will need to be in a commanding position from the back. It will probably stay in conceal for the most part during the game and simply achieve missions while marking targets. It will also need to activate early in the sequence in order to maximize its effect. Would work great in combination with a grenade launcher gunner. The Marksman, another backline concealed unit. The sniper shotgunner of the team, concealed and in cover, is where this unit will shine. Spend a point on take aim, then use your last action point to open fire. The Revelatum, the anti-conceal unit. This is a close range anti-conceal. These types of units have a hard time setting up their ability. Remember that this unit will also benefit from its own buff and could use the unique action and then open fire. This will require the enemy to be within 6 inches, and that usually doesn't happen all that often. Its main ability to be placed past your deployment zone before the game starts will be its core function. This won't work as well in most close quarters ITD maps, since you can't open doors with it before the game starts. But it could still help, even there. The Subductor. You can have 4 of these total on the field. 3+ saves help their durability, and the special functions of the shield and maul can be very useful in combat. The only thing is, 4+ to hit on only 4 attacks in melee tends not to pan out much. This unit will best fill the role of trying to tie up a 2 APL unit that isn't great in combat, simply charging them and then sitting on them to hold them in place. Remember, you don't have to fight after a charge, and the defensive function on the shield guarantees you go first in combat anyway. This will make your opponent have to decide. If the unit is 2 APL and bad at fighting, it can either try to attack and have you multi-parry it down and then do damage if you're able to, or it can fall back and do nothing for the rest of the turn. A hidden feature in fighting is also that you can parry with all of your dice, even if the enemy has no dice to parry. The Vigilant. This is your standard warrior. Depending on the mission, this unit can fill any unfilled slots. Do you think your Subductors will get stomped out? Probably best to just rely on the shotguns. Vox Signifier, capable of handing out APL to an ally it can see, except for the Mastiff. That can be helpful, but that requires a 2-stage combo to get the APL. There is a trick to this for the rules. The APL will remain on the unit until its next activation, so you can either prepare a unit for that turn or a following turn to have more action points. This can also change who controls a capture point. This can be done from conceal, so don't underestimate how helpful it could be. Let's take a quick look at the equipment. Sometimes these items can make units that seem incomplete suddenly way stronger than they should be. The shot pistol seems best in the hands of any unit that only has a shield and mace, so the Subductors or your melee leader loadout. The Mirror Visor will help only against teams and units that cause stun. There aren't a lot of these in the game so far, but you will want to know which to look out for. Manacles. It's a weaker version of the Castigator ability, but if you are going against a team that has 7 wounds max, having a Castigator and some Subductors with these items could shut down several enemies right away. I feel like I need to explain this, because if you think just incapacitating a 7 wound unit is better, you aren't necessarily wrong. But by double parrying the unit so no damage is done, you now have permanently stunned the unit that is also preventing you from being shot. As well, a nearby shotgunner can put it down whenever it wants anyway. Strobing Phosphor Lumen, very situational. Enemies and teams that rely on rerolls will hate this. Honestly, it might be best in mirror matches since it can shut down the used strategic ploys that RBDs have. Frag and crack grenades, basic. The team doesn't have a specialist that just has them, so you will need to choose them. The stun grenade can be useful against low APL teams, but it is difficult to rely on a single dice roll of 4+ to see if a unit is stunned. So that's the Exaction Squad. Mid to close range with an interesting perma-stun mechanic. Their core function seems to be grabbing a unit with a Subductor to hold it in place, and then killing it with some nearby shotguns. They are fairly comparable to other IG teams. 7 wounds, 4+ saves, 2 APL. The trick is their shotguns do more damage from close than most standard weapons. Consider that Space Marine bolt weapons are a 3-4 damage line on a 3+ to hit. Those are considered some of the best normal in-hand weapons in the game. The fact that the shotguns can do better from close is no small thing. For my own thoughts on a build, my backline would consist of a marksman, a mallocator who could flex to a forward position, and the leader with a shotgun loadout. The leader with the shield is interesting, but any team with Seek and Destroy could just assume he is getting close, and that makes the turn 2 kill much easier. Although you could technically bait this. Staying back, he'll be able to manipulate his token and trigger the execution order Tac-Op as often as you need. You could add a heavy stubber gunner to this backline, but normally it might not be needed. A key thing is the front line. I feel like a full contingent of subductors will be needed. If the main combo is to hold a unit, then shoot it from someone else, these units are key. They would probably have shot pistols as well from the items. For damage burst, a grenade launcher gunner tied in with many of the reroll and crit upgrade rules will be needed. 4-6 is one of the highest damage lines on the team, and it would be mobile. 4 subductors, 2 backline specialists, and 1 flex gunner specialist leaves 3 slots. Know that even if most of the other specialists might not have their abilities get used during the game, if they have a combat shotgun and a baton or better, they are just better vigilance. So you might as well take them where you can. Specifically, the Vox Signifier, the Medic, and the Castigator. This would leave the Leash Master, the Mastiff, and the Revelatum out. I would use these mostly as rotation units based on mission and matchup. And if I was to take the Leash Master and the Mastiff, I would most likely drop a Subductor as well. At least this is on a first glance. As time goes on, we might see better ideas rise to the surface. Overall, I feel like the RBDs might be a very good right off the bat kind of team. It will be interesting to see how they approach their matchups. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe. I'll have links down below to my Twitter and our community Discord. Let me know in the comments what you think of the Exaction Squad. Are they a good representation of the Imperial Guard police force? Are you interested in getting them, and how do you think they will fare in some matchups? My group did manage to get their hands on some Soulshackle boxes, so we are working on getting some of them together, but it might be a bit. Thanks for watching. I am Kimrix, and I'll see you in the next one.